Space will kill you in about 90 seconds. Your blood will boil. Your lungs will collapse. The moisture in your eyes will vaporize. But the pain will be brief, cold, silent, almost peaceful compared to what waits for you at the bottom of the ocean. Because there is a place on this planet that is worse than space. It is closer to you than the nearest city. You can find it on a map. It has a name, and what it would do to your body is something no vacuum could match. Its name is the Challenger Deep. And most people have no idea what actually happens there. You probably think of space as the ultimate extreme environment. And in many ways, it is. But space is empty. Space has no pressure. Space has no weight. Space is a vacuum, which means there is nothing pressing on you. When astronauts venture outside their spacecraft, they only need a thin, flexible suit and an oxygen supply. The suit does not have to fight anything. It just has to keep the inside of your body from getting out. The deep ocean is the opposite. It fights you back. At the surface, you live under 1 atmosphere of pressure, 14 pounds per square inch. Every 10 meters you descend, another atmosphere is added. At 100 meters down, a human without protection would be in serious trouble. At 300 meters, your lungs would compress to the size of an orange. At 2,000 meters, your bones would begin to crack. At 4,000 meters, the average depth of the ocean, your body would collapse inward. Now, go deeper. 10,000 meters, 11,000. You are at the Challenger Deep. Here is where it gets interesting. The Challenger Deep sits at the southern end of the Mariana Trench, a scar in the Pacific seafloor near the Mariana Islands. It was named after HMS Challenger, the British ship that first measured its depth in 1875 using a rope and a sinker. That expedition, led by naturalist Charles Wyville Thomson, ran between 1872 and 1876 and produced 50 volumes of oceanographic data. It was the first time humans had systematically measured the deep sea. Their number was close, nearly 9,000 meters. Later measurements pushed the true depth to almost 11 kilometers, nearly 7 miles straight down. If you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, the summit would still be more than 2 kilometers underwater. At that depth, the pressure exceeds 16,000 pounds per square inch. That is the equivalent of 100 elephants standing on a postage stamp. If you dropped a normal steel diving cylinder into the Challenger Deep without any modifications, it would implode. Not slowly, not with a warning. Instantly. It would collapse into a metal disc before it reached the bottom. And this is the environment that some things live in. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is what happens to human tissue at those pressures. Your bones are calcium and collagen. They can compress, but only to a point. Your cell membranes are lipid bilayers that require flexibility. Under enough pressure, they lose fluidity and lock into place. Your proteins, which are shaped like origami, unfold. Your enzymes stop working. Your neurons cannot fire. The chemical machinery of a human body, tuned to run at 1 atmosphere, does not just fail at 1,100 atmospheres. It stops being what it was. You would not die the way you might die in space. You would die from being physically transformed into something the human body was never designed to be. Marine biologist Alan Jamieson at the University of Western Australia has spent over a decade sending baited landers into the deepest trenches on Earth. He does not do this remotely for fun. He does it because the deep sea environment is so hostile that no human-crewed submersible can casually visit. Even the ones that can survive the descent are engineering triumphs on the scale of a space program. In 2019, explorer Victor Vescovo, funded through his own 5-year project called 5 Deeps, descended in the DSV limiting factor to the bottom of the Challenger Deep. It was only the 3rd time humans had made that trip. The submersible was made of titanium alloy, 9 centimeters thick, shaped like a sphere, and rated for pressures that could crush every other manned submersible ever built. The window was quartz. The lights were rated for depths where sunlight has not touched in the entire history of the planet. Vescovo spent about 4 hours at the bottom. He saw plastic, he saw a snailfish, he saw the smooth, alien terrain of the deepest floor on Earth. And then he went home. Because unlike space, where humans can spend months on the International Space Station, no one can stay down there. Not for hours, not for minutes. The limiting factor was designed for brief visits, because sustained human presence in the Challenger Deep is not just impractical, it might be impossible with current materials. Compare this to space. The International Space Station has hosted humans continuously for over 2 decades. Astronauts eat, sleep, exercise, and work in orbit. Some have stayed in space for over a year. The record for the longest continuous stay by a human in the deep ocean is measured in hours. Here is where the science becomes harder to explain. We know more about the moon than we know about the trenches. Robert Ballard, the marine geologist who found the wreck of the Titanic, has argued for years that the ocean floor is the last true frontier. He is right in a way that most people underestimate. The moon has been fully imaged at sub-meter resolution. Every crater, every ridge, every ancient lava flow has been cataloged. Astronauts have brought back rock samples. Robotic probes have mapped its interior. The Challenger Deep has been visited by fewer than 20 people in the history of our species. More people have flown to space than have descended to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is what has been found down there. In 2020, oceanographer Gabrielle Delegates from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and her colleagues examined sediments and animal samples from the Challenger Deep. They found microplastics at the deepest point on Earth, in a place where no light had reached for hundreds of millions of years. Someone's grocery bag had become part of the ecosystem at the bottom of the world. They also found something more disturbing. In 2019, marine biologist Alan Jamieson published research showing that deep-sea amphipods from the trench contained persistent organic pollutants at levels comparable to industrialized rivers. Chemicals like PCBs, banned in most of the world decades ago, had accumulated in creatures that live in the most remote environment on the planet. The bottom of the ocean, one of the most inaccessible places in the solar system, has already been polluted by us. And yet, life is there. Snailfish live at depths over 8,000 meters. Alan Jamieson has filmed them alive. They are translucent. Their bones are partially unmineralized. Their bodies contain a molecule called trimethylamine oxide, or TMAO, which holds their proteins together against pressures that would collapse yours. Without that one molecule, they would not exist. The presence of TMAO increases with depth almost in a straight line. It is essentially a chemical adaptation to hell. Amphipods, tiny shrimp-like crustaceans, thrive at the very bottom of the Challenger Deep. Sea cucumbers, certain kinds of foraminifera, single-celled organisms with intricate shells, bacteria that can eat rock. In the most brutal environment on Earth, life has not just survived, it has specialized. The deeper question is why this matters. Because if life can survive at 11,000 meters below the surface, in complete darkness, under 16,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, then the conditions we once considered necessary for life are much narrower than the conditions life can actually handle. Everything you were taught about habitable zones, everything you were taught about what a living planet requires, was based on a shallow understanding. Life is stranger, tougher, and more adaptable than the surface world suggests. Astrobiologist Kevin Hand at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory has spent years studying the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, Europa, Enceladus. Beneath their frozen shells are oceans, real oceans, salt water warmed by tidal forces sitting on rocky floors that may have hydrothermal vents. If life can thrive in the Mariana Trench, it might also thrive around those alien vents. The Challenger Deep is a laboratory for astrobiology. What lives down there is a preview of what might live out there. We have to understand this floor of our own world before we can seriously look for life on other worlds. Here is what most people never think about: The Challenger Deep, this brutal, crushing, alien environment, is not somewhere far away. It is not on another planet. It is on this planet, right now. If you took a train from any city and rode it downward, ignoring rock and mantle and everything else, you would reach it in less time than it takes to travel to the other side of the world. It is closer to you than most international vacations, and humanity has, effectively, never been there. Space is inhospitable. Space will kill you. But space is empty. Space is silent. Space is a clean death. The Challenger Deep is not empty. It is full of pressure, full of water, full of pollutants, full of animals that have adapted to something we cannot, full of chemistry that our biology does not permit, full of secrets, most of which have never been documented, because humans cannot get there long enough to look. If you fell into space, the vacuum would take you. If you fell into the Challenger Deep, the pressure would collapse you before you understood what had happened. Space will destroy your body from the outside in. The deep ocean will destroy your body from the inside out. And yet, the deep ocean is where life first appeared. The best current theory of the origin of life on Earth, developed by researchers including microbiologist Nick Lane at University College London, places the birth of biology near deep-sea hydrothermal vents, where hot, mineral-rich water met cold seawater, where energy gradients drove the first chemical reactions that eventually became the first cells. Every organism alive today, including you, is descended from something that once lived at the bottom of an ocean. The place that would kill you the most brutally is the place that gave you life. Now think back to that beach, or that flight over the sea, or the map on your wall. Under the surface, in a trench that you could reach faster than the other side of your own country, there is a place harder to visit than the moon, more extreme than orbit, colder than most of space, older than any land you have ever walked on. It is real, it is close, and almost no one has been there. If you want to know how strange this planet really is, do not look up. Look down. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more videos like it. See you in the next one.